From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in North Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 20th. And we have a current storm that we're dealing with. It's just about to move out. And this is the current radar on the system. And this is all that's left of it. So these last bands will be pushing through this morning. After this point, you're going to want to go, if you have some slush kind of sitting around this morning, you're going to want to go out and get rid of it as soon as that rain stops. Because as soon as it does so, I have a timing map for you when you need to get out and clear it before this all freezes and turns into just literal cinder blocks, and you're not going to be able to get rid of it. Okay, so we'll get to that in a second. Here was this is our final call map that we put out on Saturday morning. We did have to adjust very slightly from the previous calls, and we already low to begin with, and by far lower than any other source here. So we didn't have to adjust too much. Of course, if people can't read or have trouble with reading comprehension or forget where they heard things, and saw some of these higher ridiculous calls that we saw out there that were so much higher than ours, and they come back and attack us for it for a blown forecast. But you know, I had my patience patience run very thin yesterday with trolls and trolling comments. So we had to ban about 30 people, unfortunately, that either can't read or refuse to acknowledge that this map was very, very good. And if you look at the numbers this morning of the snowfall accumulations and ice accrual, this is as close to 100% as you're going to get. This is very good job here of the team here, and I'm not talking about me myself here, because I really wasn't involved directly with this as much as some of the others were on our staff, and they did a very good job here adjusting the changes here on Saturday morning. So that was a very good system to finally get out of the way here, and we finally have some snow, at least some accumulating snow, which for some areas was the first time since November where we had anything of anything to remove anyway. But here's what we are dealing with this morning. We have a flash freeze coming in, and these areas are already, at the time this video is recorded, you can actually include area B also. So A and B are below freezing right now. This is a timeline moving southeastward with the the cold air advection coming in behind the system. And you're going to have a flash freeze, and everything that is either standing water, slush, or just wet, just plain wet, is everything's going to freeze very quickly, and it's going to be a rapid freeze where temperatures are going to drop off like a couple degrees an hour, easily 3-4 degrees an hour, until we get to the overnight period, and then we're dropping down to the single digits, maybe below zero in some places overnight. So, you know, it's going to be pretty quick, and you're already right now. Most places are kind of like in the 30 to 40 range right now. Up here, obviously, you're below freezing already, but this is going to be moving south and east very quickly, and this is the timeline of when it gets here. So these are already below freezing the time the video is recorded. C is next, this area in the middle right here, that's about 11 a.m. and then each increment as you go further southeast is another hour. So I posted this on the Twitter page, so if you wanted to see this again, you don't have to go back to the video and look at it. That is there for you to take a look at. But these are at 1 hour increments of when you were expecting to see it. From 9 a.m. all the way to 3 at the coast here will be the last point at which everybody it goes below freezing. And the entire region will be below freezing at that point. So I have a little thing on here that says, watch the radar this morning. If you see precipitation is ending, I'd run out and clear whatever's there. Whatever slop is there is going to turn to ice and cinder block like ice. So you're not going to be able to remove it. So get rid of it now. Okay, and it only pertains to the areas that are obviously have slush on the ground yet. Further south, you're just wet. Hopefully, as that system moves in and you get and the wind picks up with that cold advection, and then those areas that are just wet down here, maybe it dries out enough that it won't cause too many issues down in the southern areas. So we're hopeful for that. I did have the chance to update the long range table, actually the long range page. I did that yesterday, and it was a day late because we had all this nonsense going on with the storm that we were dealing with. But here's what we're looking at going forward. Now, we at the end of December said January 20th is the magic day. It was, but we're going to have a transient little shot come in here of warmth that's going to interrupt that. It's not going to be a direct thing, and that's only going to be a day, maybe two at the most, depending on the progression of a cold front. All right, so if you want to say the true pattern change really comes behind that cold front, which will be on the 24th. So if you want to say, okay, you were off by 4 days, whatever. It was a 3.5-week lead time. And I was guessing on a date, and I was pretty darn close. But if the 20th is today, go outside here at about 5 o'clock today and tell me how warm it is. Anyway, it is transient. It's only a couple days here through about Tuesday that we're below freezing for highs and it's very cold. Actually, tomorrow's going to be brutal, absolutely brutal. I'm not going outside for anything. And the kids are off school, so I don't have to take them to school, which is great. But here's the 23rd, 24th system. We'll get into that here. There's a system coming in. It's just a cold front. So you're going to have showers with a cold front coming through, and that's in this time. We have rain listed. There's a cold front that's moving through, and you're going to get showers with that. Now, once that once that cold front moves through, if it's more progressive like the GFS shows, there's going to be an area of low pressure that forms along that boundary and moves along it. But if the front is more progressive, then we get colder quicker. If it is slower, then it lasts into Thursday, and you get rain into Thursday also with that secondary low. Okay, so we'll get into that in the video here too. There's a winter storm signal we listed here on the 27th, 28th. This could just end up being a minor clipper system, or it could hit the coast and redevelop and turn into something a little bit more. We don't know enough about that yet, so we're just going to put a signal there for now. There's another signal beyond this I would put right around the right at the very end of the month and the start of February, somewhere in that range, or maybe the 2nd or 3rd, somewhere in that range here. It's kind of iffy between a couple different signals, but there are some signals out there. The difference is what we're doing going forward here, once you get beyond the pattern change, and this is happening now, is you're going to sustainable below average temperatures. So the things that any systems coming in are not going to be cutting and giving you rain like is expected on Wednesday at the very least, maybe even Thursday. Okay, so you're not going to have that anymore. Now you're dealing with the sustained cold. So at least you're cold and you're established cold, and any systems coming in are going to be in the form of snow. But the question is, how much of this cold is going to overwhelm the pattern, and are we going to have a relaxation a little bit in there to allow some storms to come in here, or are we just going to be dry and cold? That is a possibility. I think that you can remain drier than average and just get a bunch of these little weak clipper systems at least through the end of the month. And this one on the 27th could be one of them, but it could also hit the coast and redevelop. We don't know that yet, so we'll see. So that's a signal for now. Again, pattern changes. Okay, if you want to call it the 24th now, 4 days late, whatever. But it is, again, it's going to be cold today, cold tomorrow, cold Tuesday. Then you have that 1 or 2, depending how fast that front is, day of transient warmth. And you go right back into cold and stay that way for the next 4 weeks. So we are going to be ending up the January slightly above average in temperatures for the month as a whole, but we're going well below still here in February with well above average snowfall. We will continue to monitor this going forward, but this is the pattern right now through early February that we're looking at. Right now we're in phase 4. Now again, phase 4 is usually an ugly phase. So this is in part leading to this system here on Tuesday. All right, so you're going to, as soon as we go into phase 4, 5, 6, you're warmer, and look where we're headed, 4, 5, 6. But right now we have some of this being offset by the stratospheric polar vortex that has downwelled into the troposphere. So we're getting some overwhelming cold coming in that's going to supersede this. Okay. Now this is still going to eventually go through the progression and make it to the cold phases anyway, I think, with time. And you can see where here in the infrared satellite, the best convection is out here. So this is your phase 4. All right. It's not over here where it would be phase 7, phase 8, which will be more conducive for cold and snow in our region without that stratospheric help. If we didn't have the stratospheric help right now, we'd be torching. So thankfully, if you're a winter lover or cold lover, you had the stratospheric PV split, because it did occur, and this is current. Still very much warming over the poles here, and it's basically a dual split. This is not this split vortex is not a triple vortex or whatever we can call it a little bit. There's a little bit going on over here in Europe, but it's basically here and here over Siberia. So you got 2 areas that is really the most prominent. It was over Europe, but that's going to relax a little bit. Matter of fact, with time, as it goes forward in 2 weeks, the warming's still there over the stratosphere, still pretty much in the same areas right here and here. Europe, it gives up. Okay, so we are going to be stuck in this. Here's the pattern right now, here in the stratosphere, and here's the pattern in 2 weeks from now. It doesn't move really too much for us. And as far as the tropospheric response, where we live below it, where the actual weather happens, here's what we're looking at with that big cold shot. Now the PV, the polar vortex, a tropospheric polar vortex, it's a different thing. Stratospheric polar vortex kind of dictates the tropospheric polar vortex once it downwells. Here's a polar vortex up here. Okay, a piece of that broke off here, and that's why we're going to be so brutally cold Monday, Tuesday, actually later today through Tuesday. because a piece of that broke off, and that's this area, this very cold snap right here. That's part of the PV, just a piece of it that broke off. Once that moves out of the way, this is going to reload. The polar vortex is going to reload and then come in afterwards. But in ahead of that, you get that transient warm-up on Wednesday ahead of the cold front. Depending on the progression of how fast it moves through will determine whether that bleeds into Thursday also, or at least part of Thursday. This might be like a day, day and a half, actually, is more realistically how long it's going to warm up. And then you have this waiting to come in. So right behind it, this is the pattern that comes behind it, and it stays that way for the foreseeable future. If you look at our long-range written outlook yesterday, I did do the maps for the projections for the 5-day intervals between January 30th and February 3rd. We are below average, and even more so February 4th to 4th to 8th, right behind that. So this is the 11 to 15-day pattern, 16 to 20-day pattern, and we're really cold here, folks. This is going to be a very cold shot coming in that's going to stick around for a while, and you can see that here. And then you have a very good ridging out in the west. This is a very good, not only cold, but storm signal, but we have to watch that this doesn't come too far south and overwhelm the pattern so much that it just squashes all these storm threats. I don't think it does completely, and even in this pattern, you still have these fast-moving clippers coming in and giving you every 3 days or so, you get a shot of snow here. It might be light, so that would be the worst case, I think. But best case is for snow lovers is that you have with this big amplified pattern here in the ridge, you have something that comes out of the Gulf of Mexico, comes up here and gives you a good snowstorm, as long as this doesn't get too far south, because then it suppresses everything to the south also. Okay, so that's something that is definitely possible. Not saying that's going to be the pattern going forward all the way through February, but we are going to have some relaxation periods where it's not as dominant as this. You know, and it's only slightly below average for a couple days or something. And during that relaxation period, if you get a storm time right, you can get something bigger, okay? Now, this is exactly what happened in 2014, 2015. Same thing. Look, here's January 2015. We turned colder earlier that month, but it was just for the Northeast U.S. We're not going to be, since we're doing it later in the month, it's not going to happen in time this year. But February is very cold in the east. Deep trough. And there's some really, really cold temperatures in the east here, and not too dissimilar for what we're projecting going forward in that time in February. So this is coming, and very similar to the February 2015 analog that we used way back in the winter outlook in October. That's pretty impressive that this is still holding after all this time. Now, as far as storm potentials, we do have, again, this is that system that's shown in the GFS. The European model is all rain, and it cuts this system. Here's your system right here. And this is all going to depend on the progression of this front. This frontal boundary is going to come in on Wednesday and give you rain across the region, but it's going to be showery type rain that's normally associated with a cold front. But the cold front, if it's fast enough and it's all the way out here like this, and you have low pressure moving around the boundary, you might have some, maybe showers ending as snow at the tail end here. Now this is, I don't want to say it's a long shot, but this is not necessarily the going forecast. I would really think that it's going to be just rain, and then you might have that low pressure move a little bit further inland, and you get more rain here on Thursday. That's still a possibility too. They're really 50-50 on that, because I can't lean one way or the other on that, so we'll just have to watch this throughout the weekend. We might get some back-end snow or rain. I don't want to call it back-end snow, because this is more antifrontal snow, we'll call it, on the back end. Okay, and this is as this low pressure is developing along the frontal boundary, so you get some increased moisture behind the front after it moves through. If in fact the front is progressive, you'll have this. If it's not progressive and it gets hung up in the front, instead of this cold front being right here as shown on the GFS, it's back here like what is shown on the European model. Big difference. So at that low pressure, even if it is forming out here, it would be rain here, not snow as indicated. Okay, so that's what we have to watch this in the week ahead. So that's this one here on the Wednesday, Thursday time frame. Wednesday night and Thursday, it looks like. But during the day on Wednesday, you're going to have those showers with the front in advance everywhere. That's not an issue. It's just what happens Wednesday night into Thursday morning at least. Okay, we have to watch that period. The next storm potential is dealing with a clipper system again, coming through the Great Lakes. Now, it doesn't look like a big deal here, and it's really not. And I can't really find you an image that shows anything. But from an upper air standpoint, this has potential to pop another low here off the coast and transfer energy to a coastal out here. Okay, and it was shown on several ensembles yesterday, and it would just help our eastern sections of that happen, maybe even northeastern sections. So we have to watch that very closely for that redevelopment possibility. But again, it's not something we're just, if it doesn't happen, you're just dealing with light snow showers and that's it. If it does pop the secondary here, you could be dealing with a lot more snow than that. or a clipper on steroids, one of the two. Okay, so there's a lot of possibilities with that. That would be next weekend, probably the end of next weekend, next maybe Saturday night, Sunday, maybe even into Monday if this slows up a little bit. Okay, so just to summarize here, we got a brutal cold start to the week, then a transient milder day, maybe 2 days ahead of the cold front. We'll see. I think it's either going to be, could just be Wednesday that is the milder day. When I'm talking milder, I'm talking like 38, 40. It's not going to be 60, okay? But it's certainly not going to be below freezing like it's going to be on Monday and Tuesday, or even well below freezing both days. But the transient milder day comes in there. It might be extended to, again, if that front isn't as progressive and it's more like the European model, it might go into Thursday as well, where it's mild at least to start on Thursday. So that's why we have your transient period there. So then that would make the true pattern change to a sustainable cold one, and henceforth snow would be post January 24th, not the 20th. I was off by 4 days when I projected it in the end of December. I don't think it's a big deal. Some people on Twitter decided it was a big deal, decided to go on a rant. Block. See you later. Clear your slush this morning after the rain stops ahead of the flash freeze. That's going to be very soon. And again, the timing of that, I'm going to put this is up on Twitter, where you can go on my Twitter page. It's at EPAWAWX for those of you that do not follow me on Twitter. But this is the map that I put up in there with all the details, so you don't have to go back to the video. It's right there and gives the timing, and each increment here is an hour later. Okay, so again, A and B at the time the video is recorded are already below freezing. So C, D, E, this is 11. C would be 11. D is noon. E is 1. F is 2, and G is probably after 3. But you want to clear all that stuff out of here. Anything that's standing slush, because if you don't, it's going to be stuck there for a while, and you're not going to be able to remove it because it's going to be like cinder blocks trying to get that off when it's completely frozen solid. And we are going single digits overnight, below 0 up in these regions up here. So it's not like it's just barely below freezing and you'll be able to remove it still. It won't completely freeze. It will. So get rid of it, and take care of that when you have the time to do that. And we'll go ahead and watch these next storm signals this week, and just continue to follow along with us throughout the week. We'll have updates on that Wednesday, Thursday situation. I still think it's rain, but you never know. We could have a little bit of snow on the back end, and we're talking about, of course, this one here that I was showing, that the GFS is showing some little bit of snow on the back end with this. We'll keep a close eye on that, and of course the following weekend. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you for watching. Take care.